So good morning. It's Ginny and Tim from DS Tech, and we're going to talk about emerging technologies of 2023. Some cool stuff, right?
And if you watched our other episode about technologies of 2022, a lot of this might be similar to that, but we're going to go a little bit more in depth into some of the trends and the way it's going to be steering towards in the new year.
Yeah, it's cool stuff. We added a few things too.
Yes.
So a little bit more, right?
Yep.
Sign up for our newsletter at dstech.net under news, and email us if you would like a free security scan or free network scan,
Vulnerability
right?
scan.
Vulnerability scan. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we also do an assessment of what you have, right?
Yes.
And show you what there needs to be improved to improve your
Mhm.
security and all that kind of stuff.
And
So
also make sure show what you're doing well already. So it's kind of
Yes.
an overall report of what you're doing good, what you can improve on, things are doing horrible on. It's kind of a whole scale thing. So
yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Another cool technology trend,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
Preparing. I mean, instead of reacting to
Yes.
problems,
Yeah, a lot of
You
the
know,
old,
being
10,
proactive.
15 years ago, it used to be, oh, we had a problem, let's fix it. We have a problem, let's fix it. The whole idea now is, we don't want
Prevent
it to be a problem. We're going
Yeah.
to prevent it before it gets to a problem by looking for trends and alerting us to things before they break. That kind of
Yeah.
thing. So,
So cool. That's number one technology trend. There you go.
Yep.
So what else do we have?
Well, one that I see that's kind of becoming more convenient, which is nice, is the whole idea of
No more passwords?
No more passwords. So like you normally you log in with your password, and then you usually have the two-factor. So two-factor in everything is definitely a trend. So no matter what account you log into, you should have some sort of email, text alert, or the best thing is having an app with rotating codes in it that you input to log in. Well, they're making that a little bit more seamless now, because as an end user, if you have to do two-factor for every single account you're logging into, clearly you're wasting a little bit more time just being security. So they're finally making it to where you can have, they call it, like we use one called Duo, where it's a Duo push. Where so when you log into your computer, rather than have to actually open up the app and type in the 6 digits, and it simply sends a notification to your phone that's programmed in by your text that says, hey, are you logging in your computer? You hit yes, and you're logged in. So it's a much quicker, easier, seamless push, and then you don't even need to know that password or anything. It's all saved in the back end. You just get the prompt to hit, okay, yes, it's me. So think of your phone.
Seems like we have 4-factor or something.
So yeah, sometimes by the time you log in, you do your two-factor, then you do your other thing. Sometimes I like to make a joke, I got 3-factor, 4-factor going on before I can even get in my computer. But that's just the way it is. And with the Duo pushes under the push technology, it'll be easier than on the end users, where they can just hit a button and you have the app set up on their phone and things like that. I see that's more of the trend coming into the new year, where they're going to be more of this, they call it single sign-on and pushes, things like that.
Biometrics will be part of it?
Yes, because that's the nice part of it is you can use your thumbprint as your authorization versus
Like on my laptop?
code. Like your new laptops now, where you can open them up with the fingerprint instead of typing in the passwords.
So cool.
Similar thing is you're not going to have to obviously remember your fingerprint or your face or any of
Right.
that stuff. It's just there, so you can use that as kind of the authorization when you're getting your push and things like that. So that's definitely going to be a trend, is the single sign on the push, and then using biometric data to be that you
For
can't
my
really,
daughter's, hers is her face on her phone,
Yep.
which sometimes my face opens up.
Yeah, but similar, because there's thresholds, on that technology where you can set, I want it to be, say, 70% accurate, 80%. The tighter accuracy you are, it could be, I'm having a real bad day, I just woke up and I look bad, and now my
Right.
phone won't even let me in, if it's too tight. I don't know, but you can set how accurate that is to alleviate that or be more secure depending on what you want. So that's kind of a big trend, is the two-factor on everything, and then the push more towards seamless two-factor with the single sign-on or the push like that. AI is still going to be a huge thing going into 2023. It's not going away. So one that's kind of neat that I see is they're using it to solve the problems. They used to call it folding, where what they're doing is they're running mathematical equations to try to break down the protein structures to know how they're built on a very small scale. So that way, when you know how protein's built specifically from the ground up, you can then create cures or modify it or things like that to prevent things. So the idea is now, instead of using like a graphics card or a CPU card that's running data all the time, they're actually using AI to run it. So it's almost like you're virtualizing a hardware to basically, they're able to run these complex math programs even faster than they were before using the same hardware, which it's augmenting the hardware to allow it to run even more. So they're able to just run more and more math problems to, in theory, you're trying to reverse engineer protein structures or emergence, variants, things like that, and then you can hopefully cure them, which is kind of neat.
Have you seen those AI photos, those drawings of people?
Yes, where you can type in, I want a picture of a high school football game, and in the last 3 seconds they score a winning field goal, and it'll just create like a scene that is like that with,
So I
whatever it
downloaded
is.
an app and I uploaded like 20 selfies and it
Okay.
came up with all these artworks with my face on it.
Yep.
It was like
That's,
really
yeah, because
cool.
that's a lot of AI is like you're training this program with information, right? So you
Mhm.
take, and that's how a lot of AI now does, is it just scrapes the internet for all data on the internet, left, right, whatever it is, Wikipedia articles, things like that. And so whatever you're training the AI on, it's going to kind of get a bias, towards that. And a lot of people are worried about, like, do I want my social media being used on all these AI programs? It's kind of my information, blah, blah.
Your
the whole-
information's out there.
I,
If you're on social media,
it's out there, yeah.
what you put on social media is out there.
So
So
now-
be careful,
Yes.
right? So
So what I see them are trying to do is be more morally apt, where rather than using, say, all of, say, Twitter's users, say a Twitter has like 10 million users or whatever, rather than using an AI program that'll scrape all the data from Twitter and use that, they're trying to have AI create their own profiles based on already learned stuff and then use that to train itself. So rather than using every real person's data, they're making, like, kind of, you could say, fake people randomly generated and then using that data to train itself. The problem I see with that is you're creating like a closed loop system where it's creating stuff based on what it already knows and then it's training itself on that, and so it's not going to really get outside influence, so it'll be more tailored. That's just my thought on that. I'm not really huge in the AI sphere, but yeah, the idea of creating
It's kinda
information and
crazy,
using
huh?
that information to train itself, so the AI can perpetually train itself even faster now. So that's kind of a breakthrough with the AIs, and that kind of stuff. And then the typical, you got they can pre-write your articles for like news, or the kids in school are trying to get their essays rewritten for them automatically, and with that, the writing bots, it's just more of a rough draft. You
okay,
still want to go
so
through
I
and
will
add your
confess
personal-
that I've used an AI bot to help me write things.
Yeah.
And it's not your voice, right?
Yep.
And people can tell that. So what I did is kind of like when you're Googling, like researching something, and then you're just kind of changing it into your own words, but you're basically using
it to get you the information, and you got to
Yeah.
rewrite it in your own words. It's kind of like when you're a kid, you look up on something online on like Wikipedia, and there's the paragraph of
I asked it
Wikipedia,
to
so
write
now
a
you got to
poem
rewrite
for
it
me.
in your own words. Yeah, write a poem for you. Yeah.
I did. I
Yeah.
asked it to write a poem for me, and it wasn't bad. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's kind of cool. So
Yeah, I've seen some pretty impressive stuff with this. So
yeah.
it's going to be definitely the media you consume, whether it's written, visual, audio, even. There's bots out there now that'll create a beat for a rapper or an artist. It'll be a generic beat. Now, obviously, you need to take that, tweak it, audio, all that kind of stuff. But it's creating rough drafts, which is saving
It'll
people
never
a lot
replace
of time.
creativity.
Exactly,
but
because you don't have that.
It'll definitely
Yeah.
maybe boost more creativity. I
Allow
don't
people
know.
who are creative to churn out more information, because
Yeah.
the generic, the underlying structure's there, and then they can add their own creative flavor to that
Yeah.
and kind of tweak it. So yes, I definitely see that as a big thing. And so we call it like synthetic data to train AI for that, because it's using fake data that it's creating to train itself. things like that.
Got it.
Now, when you're getting into like the cryptocurrency, the coins and all that stuff, the big trend that's going to be getting more and more is the whole, they call it proof of stake. So what that means is when you're getting, say a Bitcoin or a Litecoin or Ethereum, all the different coins that are out there, in order to keep the network secure and to run and how they issue coins, usually used to have a computer that would be running mathematical equations 24/7, mining. And
okay.
then
You
as-
told me about this
And then
before.
as part of mining, you would be rewarded with certain tokens if you were successful and solved the equation on your computer. And it got to the point where people couldn't just do this with a regular computer. They needed like almost like supercomputers, specialized computers. And now it's like you need a Bitcoin warehouse trying to mine, because it gets harder and harder the more people are doing it. And so with that, it does use a lot of energy. And that's the whole idea, is like, oh, it's not really as sustainable as some of the other ones, where the other idea is they call it proof of stake. So the idea is that by you having certain tokens, you can essentially put them on a hold, and then that is doing the same function as running mathematical equations on your computer. So if, for example, if I had a certain token that was proof of stake and I owned 1 million of those tokens, I could take 500,000 of them and stake them, which it's almost like putting your funds in like a CD, where you can't touch them, you can't move them, you can't spend them, you can't do anything. They're kind of locked in place.
Okay.
And by locking them in place, you're saying, I'm going to use these as part of the overall process of everything. So there's different, I guess you could say, arguments to that. Some people are against it because the idea with proof of stake, now people that just own a ton of coins, now they have the most influence and say, you know what I mean, versus just proof of work was more anyone could participate. But there's with the proof of stake, it's still it's how they do it. With anything, every coin can be set
Is
up
it
with
like
different rules.
owning part of a company?
Yeah,
like that
exactly.
kind of
Think of
thing?
it as like if you're part of a board, right, on a company and you have influence over how it's saying. If you have so many coins, all the stake owners of this coin, you own a lot of the coin, you're kind of like an owner of it. And so then everyone can participate, whether you have 10 coins or a million, and vote. And then depending how many tokens you have, is your chances are greater. You know, so if you had a million tokens, you're going to get a reward more likely than someone has 10 tokens, but it's still, and then each coin itself can be set up differently too to be more fair. So that way someone with a lot. So it's kind of complex.
Sounds too complicated.
But the
to me.
idea is that you're moving away from having to have hardware run it. You can simply participate just by owning and wanting to be part of this. If you believe in this token's going to do a certain thing, that's well, you could not necessarily have computers running algorithms, but just by investing and participating in it, you can be kind of like a part owner, and it helps the network that
Or maybe
way.
like owning pieces of land.
Yep.
Too, kind of.
Kind of, yeah, in a sense.
That's what comes to mind when you say stake. You know, like
Yeah, it's I guess when you're staking it, you're taking so much and you're putting them on hold and you're kind of freezing them so they can't
So
be
it's like-
used. So
Okay.
you're you know so you're
Huh.
yeah. Anyway, that's with the coins, and that's kind of it's kind of been going
that's
for
a
a
new
while now.
thing.
That's
the
that's
stake thing is. a
that's
new
where
thing.
more
Okay.
tokens I think in the future are going to go to the proof of stake, just because it's more, it just makes more sense going into the future with not using less energy, and it can still be just as secure and all that kind of stuff. So
Interesting. Okay.
using AI as well for like different support things you might see. So for your normally when you open up ticket generation, you can even have chats where when you ask a question of a tech, it might give you generic answers. You know,
Okay, so
'cause-
I use the chat a lot when I'm
Yep.
getting support for whatever software or something. It could be an AI
it
answering
could
my
be.
questions.
It could be. Yeah, it's a lot of the companies now are using AI kind of as like their level one, so the generic text.
Especially
You know,
like the frequently asked questions.
exactly.
Right?
If you go to like a program that I
that makes
use all the
sense.
time, and I'm like, hey, how do I fix this SQL error? And it might give me 10 articles of the different SQL errors for that particular program that I can look at and try
I've
to
seen
figure
that.
out. So it's kind of a way of parsing all the knowledge bases real quickly, you know, and then obviously you can escalate usually within those programs, be like, I want to speak to a real person or whatever. Usually
Yeah.
they have that option for someone, so a lot of people like that person.
So
too.
is that the same thing as like when I called someone yesterday and it said, tell me what you want. And I'm like, I'm trying to tell it. And it kept telling me, I don't understand. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how to ask you this question.
Yeah,
So
it's like, yeah.
finally, after like, I had ended up hanging up and calling back. And
You probably use like the right keyword or the right
I don't
word or
know.
something.
They
yeah.
finally said, let me get you a representative. I said, yes, thank you.
Yeah. A lot of those times when you're getting to the automated phone dialers where it's, you know, please tell me what you want. Oh, tech
Is that
support.
the same thing
or
though?
this-
Is it AI or is it something
That's not
else?
really AI. That's more just an auto dialer that's probably pre-programmed with certain phrases where if you
Oh,
set a
okay.
keyword, it goes
Okay.
here. If it says a keyword, it goes here. And that's probably pre-programmed.
Sure.
AI would be kind of doing that, but rather than having a pre-programmed, they call it dial tree, like
It's a little bit
pre-programmed.
smarter, probably.
It's smart enough to have like, here's a database of all the information, and it's smart enough to just automatically use words and codes and kind of look at a more advanced. So it doesn't have to be completely created where every keyword is already done in a
Oh,
dial tree. That's
okay.
probably pre-done by a human where they're
Right.
like, this word goes here, this word goes here, and it kind of, they route the different calls to different areas.
Okay.
AI would be kind of like automating that, where you'll have, here's all the knowledge base of information. We want our AI chat to just listen for key basic terms, but it can learn more as it goes. So if, say 20 people call in and they use the term, you know, broken or something, it'll start realizing and mapping broken to certain things, and it can learn and automatically readjust as needed. That's what AI does. It kind of learns based on
Okay,
that.
that makes sense because that little AI chat I use, sometimes if it doesn't get it right, I'm like, oh, I tell it, I said, that's not what I was looking for. And it says, I'm sorry. And then it comes back with something else. And I'm like,
Yep.
okay, that's closer.
And so that's the thing is it's learning, then that's all, you know, AI does is it's basically a bunch of guesses. It's like, if I do this and I get, you know, the positive feedback, I'll
Yeah.
put that in the positive column. If I do it's negative, and just a bunch of things done over in time.
That's
And that mimics, how humans learn, as a kid, oh, I go put my finger in the, obviously don't put your finger in the light socket, but, you have parents' oversight for that.
Or
But you learn by just
touch the hot
touching
pan on the
everything
stove.
and touching everything and doing everything. That's kind of what AI is doing, is it's just trying different things, getting feedback that was good, that was bad, and then it's learning and building its own knowledge
Yeah.
based on past behavior. So I do see that in 2023, the phishing scams are still also going to be evolving more towards the smartphone side, I see, because they're still
I
going to be
swear,
targeting your emails
They
like
get
crazy.
smart. They're
but
smart.
This year compared to last year's holiday season, how many more text messages I got that were like the fake Amazon packages, that were all that, I've definitely seen an increase in myself. So
Me too.
that's anecdotally, but I think that's happening across the board because not as many people are checking their emails daily, but they'll check their smartphone daily, and that's where they're going to be getting the messages, ghost phone calls, that kind of stuff. So just be very vigilant with your, your phones, all that kind of stuff. Just
And
don't click the link.
Some of the emails that come through, a lot of them don't get through our
Yep.
spam filters. But one that came through yesterday, I was like, it almost got me because it was using some language that it's something I was working on.
Right. It was very relevant to something
I'm
you
like,
were recently just doing.
How the heck do they do that? But I'm like, I caught it and I did not
Yep.
click. So
yeah,
that's good.
never click the links directly in the messages. Always
Yep.
go to the source if possible.
I did. I went and logged in and I'm
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, see, there's no invoice there, so I don't know what you're talking about.
I think another one that's going to be kind of emerging in the next year too is going to be more of
We
the
said it again. Do we say it every episode?
don't click the link.
Don't click the links.
Yes, don't click the links in the phishing, because that's the number one thing. It's whether you click it in
Sorry.
email, click it. No. That's it.
We say
always-
it every episode. I just like,
It's always
okay, I'm
good
going
to
to see how many
reiterate
times.
it. Because yes,
Maybe I'll have AI go through our
just
videos
count
and
just-
say how many times we said it. Okay, keep going.
So I see that the insurance requirements are going to be getting more, for
Mhm.
cybersecurity insurance. If you're a business and you're retaining customer data, that kind of thing, it's going to be becoming more required through, government regulations. If you're in a business, you want to do this and participate, you're going to need to have some sort of level of security, where maybe 10 years ago it wouldn't matter. Everyone had local admins and all this other stuff that in the security world you're not going to want. So just keep in mind that things you may have neglected in the past and you could get by with, like, oh, we never change our passwords, or everyone uses the same password, or those kind of things that you don't really want to be doing. But as a small business, sometimes you cut corners just for time, things like that. You're going to need to really kind of get those plans in place and train your staff and kind of work and to become more security conscious, because it's not just the big companies that are getting hacked now, it is the smaller businesses too that are getting targeted as everything gets more and more connected. So
And we work closely with a lot of insurance agencies,
Mhm.
and they have us go through because sometimes the customer is like looking at their list and going, what is that? Right?
You as a customer, you
So-
might have no idea. Their insurance is going to give you a list of, you need to have rotating passwords. Everyone can't be a domain admin and all this kind of stuff, and you might not even know what half of it is. That's where you leverage our expertise, and we can help
We can
you
help you get through
get
that
through
for
those
sure.
waters and navigate that and make sure you're up to a certain level of requirement before they'll even take you. That's the issue they're saying now is, before it was like anyone could get it regardless. It might just cost you more if you're not being very security conscious. It's like anyone could get car insurance, but now it's, if you're a horrible driver and you got a bad driving record, you might not even get insurance at all at a company. So that's kind of the
It'll cost you
idea.
an arm and a leg.
Yes, exactly. So just, you can definitely save yourself some money by kind of tightening up your processes and getting things more, thinking in that security conscious way. And I guess kind of the last new thing that, for, I guess you could say, emerging technology in 2023 that I see that's kind of a one that they're talking about is the whole idea of the CRISPR and then the Neuralink, kind of the basically tech and health kind of getting together, I guess is the best way to describe it. With CRISPR, it's more basically like they're trying to literally reverse engineer like DNA sequences and figure out exactly the code that makes certain things tick. So the idea is that eventually you could grow, for example, a heart in a lab, for a heart transplant rather than using an actual heart. And if you were smart enough, like say, you had your kids, you can actually take some parts of the DNA from like the umbilical cord, and it'll actually be their DNA. And then they can use that DNA that's tailored to that person to grow things specific for that person, because clearly everyone's DNA is different, unique, that kind of thing. So it's one of those things where, it's kind of, to me, I don't really like it a lot. It's a little scary, some of the crazy stuff. It reminds me of like the
futuristic
movies you see where, I don't know, that's just my personal take on it.
Just
but
grow a new part.
I see cool things could happen, like with the Neuralink, the idea of like, I can have an encyclopedia in my brain and access the information whenever, I could care less, right? But now if you take someone who, for example, has been born blind and you're able to give them sight,
Yeah.
that is really cool. Or
That
you
is
take
super
someone
cool.
who's deaf or has, a disability, and you're able to literally just fix those particular mappings in the brain to correct that
Yeah.
medical issue. I'm completely for that, giving people a better
Interesting.
quality of life, if they choose it.
Yeah.
It's just, it's one of those, it's going to be an interesting time, and there's going to be a lot of, like, I guess, moral gray areas, what we can do,
Well, there
can't
always
do, all
is,
that kind
right?
of stuff.
There
So,
always is.
but it's definitely interesting. I'm definitely not going to be the beta tester on that.
None of us will be.
Lots of other people
But
try
it's
that. but
interesting. It's
it's-
super, and it's kind of exciting.
Or what if someone can't walk? They get in a football
Yeah.
accident in high school, right? And their spine got hit or whatever, and they lost their ability
Maybe
to
they'd
use
be
their
able-
legs. What if they could walk again just by creating the new neural pathways? Like, to me, that kind of stuff's pretty cool.
It is cool.
If you
It
could
is
actually
cool.
do that.
It is cool.
So that's just
Yeah.
kind of where they're going with some of that stuff. So if you hear the terms CRISPR, all that means is just they're taking like the individual like DNA of cells and trying to reverse engineer it to a point where they can try to create it themselves in a lab.
Mhm.
That's the same. And then the Neuralink stuff, that's what you hear like with Elon Musk and all of his, whatever he's trying to do with that. But again,
He's involved in that too? No kidding.
Elon Musk is the Neuralink guy. Yeah,
I
he's the
didn't
one
know
owns
that.
all that stuff. So
I
yeah,
did not know
So
that.
definitely,
that's interesting.
it's definitely, like I said, I'm all for the positives with the medical thing, but I'm against like anyone could just sign up and get this implant and become like a human cyborg. Like, I'm totally against that. I think that's not natural.
Putting
But
technology in your brain.
yeah, that's it.
A cyborg.
I get it'd be neat, rather than having to Google something, I could just think of it and then I get the
Yeah.
answer whenever you want. But that's
Okay, so
about-
that reminds me too of those smart glasses that I saw they were targeting me for some reason. But
okay.
evidently it shows you things on the lenses.
I've seen them.
inside.
They used to have them a while ago. There was like a fad too. I forget whether it was like
It
Google that had the
reminded me
Google
of the
Glass.
Terminator.
Remember there was a Google Glass for a while where basically you put these on and it was like an overlay of things. But then people made the memes where it was like you're gonna just have walking advertisements everywhere you go. You're not gonna even get to see neat information as a joke, And so but it could be kind of cool. Like, for example, if I was rollerblading or snowboarding and I had these glasses on, in real time it could give you a little readout in the corner of your eye of how fast you're going, right? Or the temperature, like
Oh,
almost
yeah.
like
That would be
overlay so there's neat things you can do with it, like augment your reality, and that's kind of cool for like an overlay of stats, or like
Yeah.
do a quick search, maybe it gives you a term, in the corner with the definition.
Yeah.
Or I could see if you're in a foreign country, this would be more for audio. But they have these things where if someone speaks a foreign language, you can put the
it'll
thing in your ear,
translate it.
instant translation on the fly into
Oh,
your
that's
ear.
cool.
So
Okay, so when I was at an event, I don't speak as much Spanish, but they were like holding their phones to each other because it would translate.
interpret, and
Yeah.
even if it doesn't translate audio, a lot of them will
That's
listen and they'll
interesting.
have the text in your language, so you
Yeah.
can read along with it too. So there's all kinds of.
And I
skills
know
like that
on
exist.
social media you can hit the little translate button and it'll tell you what they're saying.
Yep.
It's
And so imagine that,
Kinda
Matt,
neat.
I see that, someone's like, oh, I got a Neuralink, now I speak 74 languages. Okay, I could see that'd be pretty crazy, and
Yeah.
it creates that kind of person is never going to be able to compete with a regular human again. So that's where I'm against that kind of augmenting
Oh, I
just
see
for
what you
personal gain. But I don't know, it's going to be an interesting future topic. But
it will be.
that's the idea with Neuralink, combining basically like medical and technology is kind of where that is at. So,
That's interesting stuff.
yeah.
Wow, exciting times, exciting times. Okay, so that's our emerging technologies for 2023 that we found. I'm sure there's more.
Oh yeah. It is.
I mean, we could probably talk forever.
Yeah.
And I could Google it forever, right? But make sure you sign up for our newsletter and email security@dstech.net. If you would like one of those scans, those free scans, we have different flavors of free scans.
Yep.
So make sure you do that. And in our newsletter, you'll get all kinds of tips and whatever. So make it a great day. And yeah.
Yep.
Happy 2023.
Happy 2023.